let's talk all about Benjamin Moore's Abalone, which is one of my favorite interesting neutrals to use that breaks the mold a little bit by becoming a bit of a mauve, or a mauve if you're in the States. That's just saying have fun to my filming. Dude, I got like a migraine already. Small headache. I don't want to be dramatic. In our Color Quickie series, we're going to talk about this color, go into some details on how you might use it in your home. Then I'll give you some trim color options if you want to paint your baseboards. And finally, we'll finish off with some color pairings so you have a wonderful color palette that you can use on your next project. Use me as a tool or a device to get free color advice. So in the world of neutrals, you got your beiges, your grays, your grayish, your greenages. And then, of course, you have your grouges, which is essentially your reddish kind of browny grays that I really like. Abalone is an example of that, where you have a combination of brown, beige, and gray, creating this almost earthy stone-like color that really does a great job at being very transitional in nature. It's not quite warm, it's not quite cool, and because of that, it does a wonderful job at working in a number of situations. The risk you take, however, is you do have that little bit of nuance, which can work really well in some cases, but can maybe stand out a bit too much and clash in other circumstances. So just be aware that the undertones found in Abalone tend to feel a little more purple leaning. So even though this color looks gray, or at least like a warmer gray, it does sometimes have the slightest purple undertone present, which I really do enjoy, and it's something that I look for in this color. You might have different expectations going into it. In terms of how light or dark it is, it sits in a very, very good spot. Its LRV, or its light reflectance value, is 62, and this means it reflects 62% of whatever light hits it. That's a great spot to be. It's sort of a Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold, not too light, not too dark kind of situation. And this is a favorable place to be when you're using it on your walls, because if you go too light, sometimes you don't even see the color. It just looks like an off-white or a primer, goodness forbid. And you also don't want to go too dark necessarily, because maybe you don't want your space to feel like a cavern of some sort. So kudos to Abalone. I would say it is a main color worthy choice for some people if you don't mind that touch of mauve present. So if you do enjoy purple, or you love taupe as an overarching color category, then I think this is a pretty good choice. But please, 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 please test the color out before you use it all over your home. Now, assuming you're ready to go for it, you're gonna go with Abalone on your walls. What should you use on your baseboards? What colors do you paint your trim? I have two options for you. A lighter choice would be simply white. It is an awesome choice in many circumstances. Essentially what you're getting here is one of the brightest whites that Benjamin Moore makes, but it also has a touch of warmth, more specifically kind of a creamy yellow warmth.
Creamy, so creamy beige.
So yeah, there is a slightly complementary relationship between Simply White's yellow, Abalone's bit of purple, but because they're both so subtle, you won't really notice it too much, except for the fact that they're going to really pop off of one another. They'll be very separate, very, very clean look. If you wanted darker trim as an alternative to white, Iron Mountain would be my option. And this is also a great choice if you want to paint your doors a darker color. Kind of like Abalone. It's sort of an off black color that feels a tiny bit warm, a tiny bit cool. It has this duality to it. So I think it's a great natural fit if you want some darker trim. Now, if we're talking about the rest of your home, if you need a color palette and you want some other colors to act as color pairings, I got three options for you. The first one is Vanilla Milkshake. And this is essentially another white paint color similar to Simply White, but it has a muted gray aspect to it, making it a decent amount darker than Simply White. I find it's a better choice on walls specifically, because those larger areas, maybe you don't want to go with those really, really bright whites that are going to show every little scratch, scrape, and bit of dirt. You want something that'll camouflage it a little bit better, and also it'll feel a bit softer on your eyes too. And that's why I chose Vanilla Milkshake. Also for the fact that it's another one of those colors, not quite warm, not quite dark. It has this nice combination where it feels quite neutral, all things considered. But if you wanted something with a little more color, maybe a mid-tone, Pashmina would be my next choice. And this is one of the Affinity AF colors by Benjamin Moore, an awesome collection of colors. And we have yet another color that sort of finds this balance of warm and cool, although we definitely favor the warm side of things here, especially compared to some of the other colors we talked about, where you have kind of a base of this sort of sandy beige color mixed with some gray to tone it down. It's not going to feel overly vibrant or too hot to handle. It's still within the neutral category of things, but instead of going into a more purpley mauve, sort of rosy kind of undertone direction, this one is a little more gold, ochre, bronze type of feel. Still within that same sort of warmer leaning neutral wheelhouse, but taking things into slightly different directions. So that gives you some room to play. And then finally, our third color pairing is the accent, I guess you could say. It's called Stony Brook. Unlike Pashmina, this one is definitely more cooler leaning, although it isn't icy, frigid cold either. It's blue dominant, has a touch of green, and again, that gray to help tone and smooth and soften things out. So nothing is obnoxiously standing out in a bad way. Everything has that sort of softened, dusty, serene feel. Overall, it is a very neutral color palette, but it does give you several different choices, whether you want to go brighter, lighter, a little more saturated, maybe slightly moody. But I think this is a color palette that can appeal to a lot of you, no matter what your tastes or design styles are. Speaking of the palette, here it is all together. Let me know what you think of this one. Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date with all our videos. You can check out our next video right over here.